Well, thank you for the question and the heads up on this price action in Constellation Energy from yesterday. I hadn't seen it, and I appreciate the heads up to give it a look. It was a big down day in Constellation yesterday. I have not explored very much the fundamentals about it as to why they are not having an earnings call, but I have been following it technically very closely. We've talked a lot about the technicals and a couple of things, of course. We've had these two dramatic pops just this year in the stock, which seemed a bit excessive. Doesn't surprise then that it would come to a point where it would break one of these pretty dramatically, which it has done. It did, as you noticed, fall right back and find support. It was caught at the 50-day moving average, so that's nice. If we take a look back at Constellation over the last, well, its history from 2022, we can see that last year was a dramatically big year for Constellation. Big jump. That was consistent with the utility sector. This is 10 years of the utility sector, which was up 23% last year. Average is only 10% a year, only. Average is 10% a year, was up 23% last year, which was its third best year in the last 15. In fact, in the last 15 years, the utility sector has been the number one or two performer four times, number six performer twice, but the other nine times it's been seventh or lower. And one of the reasons for that is the utility sector is a very defensive sector. So the only down year we had in utilities in the last 15 years was we had two. One was in 2015 and the other was in 2023. That was coming off of a year where it outperformed nine of the other sectors in the S&P. But anyway, the utility sector, as you can see from the last 10 years, got way ahead of itself as well in 2024. A big dramatic move because of all of this excitement about AI and the need for power. I remember back in the 90s when utilities were a big part of the conversation then. Oh my gosh, we're not going to have enough electricity to power the internet. We worked it out. It was fine. Same thing here. But anyway, technically, back to the charts. Big outsized performance last year in utilities, big outsized performance in Constellation, which of course is one of the top utility stocks, even though it's short trading history. It's definitely one of the ones we want to be in. So if my objective was to build a long-term position in Constellation Energy, I could pick up some here at the 50-day moving average and feel pretty good about that. I wouldn't commit to a full position because if you notice, we have a trend line here from back in mid 24 that is also where we find the 150-day moving average. And below that, we have a gap fill, which I've had noted for some time. I probably drew that back in here somewhere. I still expect, I don't expect, but I anticipate it could still fill this gap as not just Constellation Energy, but the utility sector as a whole. Once again, it averages 10% per year, the sector does, but it was up 23% last year. Normally, in a year that was as good for stocks as last year was good for the S&P as a whole, the utility sector usually lags. As I said earlier, it was nine times out of the last 15 years, it was in the bottom four performing sectors because the rest of the market was doing very well. In years where the S&P didn't do so well, Utes did better. So I still anticipate that from a 23% run in the utilities last year and this excessive run that Constellation has had, irrespective of the fact that it's such a good company, the technicals kind of draw themselves for us and suggest that we could see some of these lower levels reached, giving us even better opportunities. But at the 50-day, not a bad place to pick some up on a potential bounce, or at least to start building a position. Hope that answers your question. Thanks for giving me a heads up. I'll see you soon.